Welcome into the best weight loss podcast in the world, where the fat is burning and the wheels are turning. I'm one of your tall, dark, and handsome hosts, the fatty daddy himself, Danny Mabley. And of course, to my right, I got the Italian stallion, John Arpino.
How you doing?
I'm doing good. So we got a fun one for you today, folks. So let's cheat on some fat, get jacked, and about today's wonderful topic of the day. John, what are we talking about?
I figured today we would just share each other's stories, get to know each other a little bit more, and tell the audience what we're all about.
Yeah, I mean, this is the first episode. If you guys are joining us, you've never probably seen us before, or actually you have on our own social medias.
Fact.
So this is episode 1, episode 0, kind of.
Yeah.
You know, like just introducing what we're all about, tell each other's stories, and kind of just give you guys an idea of what you're signing up for. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Cool.
So this podcast, what's it about? What are we doing this for? No, me and John actually recently did a live on each other's Instagrams. And what were we talking about?
We were talking about weight loss surgery and GLP-1s.
Yeah. So if you don't know, we're both, I mean, would you consider yourself still in a weight loss journey?
Oh, yeah.
Journey
I
stops,
feel, yeah,
right?
journey never ends.
Yeah. But John's much more along in his journey. He's kept his weight off for
9 years.
9 years. I once had a transformation, gained all the way back, and I'm restarting my own journey now. And we are both, in a way, cheating on fat.
Absolutely.
Kind of playing into the whole that's cheating thing when it comes to being on a GLP-1 or having surgery, like my boy John does. So we kind of just wanted to have fun with it, create a space, create a community for people to chat, either about just weight loss in general, health in general. We're not going to tell you what to do, but we're going to share our journeys, share our stories, share meaningful things that you can relate with, and kind of just go from there.
Absolutely.
So what are you thinking?
I think that...
You want to start? I think you should start.
I mean, yeah, I can start.
Yeah, because I mean, we've known each other for a few weeks. We've chatted a little bit, but like we don't know each other like deeply yet. Like,
No, not
we're
deep yet.
acquaintances.
Yeah, this is like really our first date.
Yeah.
So really, it's episode 0, but it's our first date. Hey.
I'm at dinner first. You know what I'm saying?
No diddy. So let's take it back. It all started way back when I was a little kid. No, I've always been a very heavy kid. I was a sick kid. I had really bad debilitating asthma growing up. So because of that asthma, I was put on a steroid called prednisone very early on in life. And with prednisone, you're only supposed to be on that for about 2 weeks at a time. I was on it for about 15 years straight with no breaks. And yeah, the side effects of prednisone are massive weight gain, extreme hunger, and moon face. And I had all three. So by the time I was in high school, I was well over 400 pounds. At my heaviest weight at around 22 years old, I was 520 pounds. When I was 22 years old, I had a massive asthma attack, and I cold blued in front of my family. And when that happened, I had a paramedic, obviously, come to my house, put me on a stretcher. And I'll never forget, he was...
So what's cold blue exactly?
I stopped breathing.
Oh, like fully...
Yeah, fully stopped breathing. So I had a massive asthma attack. That asthma attack shut down my lungs. One of the last things I remember is my dad was like walking by my room. And I just remember telling him, you need to call an ambulance. And that was almost like a regular occurrence in my life. You know, like I lived in and out of a hospital for as long as I could remember. Like I was on a first name basis with every nurse in the pediatric unit growing up. Like they knew when I was coming. You could almost time my asthma attacks like by a clock. Like it was just very, you know, season changed. I would have an asthma attack. I end up in the hospital on steroids in the ICU. And then fast forward to, 22 years old, I'm in my house. I remember I had a cold at the time. Now, for my fellow Italians, everyone knows that Vicks Vapor Rub kind of cures everything. That and bacitracin. If you have bacitracin and Vicks Vapor Rub, you can probably survive days within the woods. Anyway, so I had this cold, and my stepmom came in the room, and very nice. This was very sweet. And she goes, why don't you put some Vicks Vapor Rub on? I said, yeah, sure, no problem. And I'll never forget, I like lathered it all over my chest. She put some on my back. And within moments, like the menthol just locked up my lungs. It made me go into an asthma attack, which has never happened before. And again, so my dad was walking by my room, and I just remember sweating, like the most I've ever sweat in my life. And I just remember making out the words, you need to call an ambulance. And then I'm like staring at myself in the mirror of my living room. And I just remember looking at myself and being like, you fucked up. Like you are going to die right here in front of your entire family. You're not even 30. Like everything everyone has ever said about you is absolutely true. And then I kind of black out. Paramedic shows up, puts me on a stretcher, which wasn't even a real stretcher because, again, I was 520 pounds. It was more like a big yellow chair with wheels. So they put me on this big yellow chair with wheels, and they push me out of my front door. And this paramedic looks down at me and he goes, "I'm so sorry." So the reason why he said, "I'm so sorry," is when you have an asthma attack, right, and you call a paramedic, 99.9% of the time when they get that call, they know that someone on the ambulance needs to be ALS certified. ALS certification basically just means that they can administer epinephrine, so an EpiPen. Because most of the time, if someone's in asthmatic distress, you hit them with an EpiPen, you kind of have enough time to get to a hospital, and then they can start working on you. Mm-hmm. When they got the call, I don't know if they didn't know it was an asthma attack or whatever the case may be, but no one on the scene was ALS certified. So they couldn't give me Epi. Now, I had EpiPens in my house. I could have gladly just hit myself with my own EpiPen, but at that point, because they were there, I wasn't allowed to do that anymore. So he looks at me, he says, "I'm so sorry." What he meant was, I don't know if we're going to make it to 2 minutes to the hospital. That's really what he meant.
Jeez.
Yeah. So now I'm in the back of this ambulance, floating in and out of consciousness. I'm staring at this clock on the the top of the door of the ambulance. And I remember just praying to God, praying to the universe, whoever was out there, my grandparents up in heaven, like, just give me one more shot. If you give me one more shot, I will make this right. I will do what I have to do, and I will change my entire life. An hour and a half later, I wake up in the emergency room, hooked up to a BiPAP machine, and I was given that second chance. Upon being given that second chance, I knew that I had to do everything in my power to live up to that word. So the next step was they sent me to a pulmonary rehab facility. So basically, this was a rehab facility for like older people when they get into a car accident, have a stroke, heart attack, whatever, get them back up, moving again, that sort of thing. So I remember showing up to this pulmonary rehab for the first time. And again, all old people, 70 and up. And it was just like little circuits, like they had like 2 treadmills in a corner. They had 1 fan bike, and then everything else is like armbands and just little circuit stuff. And I'll never forget, there was one day I was on the treadmill and I had an older gentleman to the right of me and an older woman to the left of me, and they had to be like 75. So we're all on the treadmill and they're boogieing, like they're doing like a 3 or 4 on this treadmill. And then there's me, 22 years old, 520 pounds, gasping for air going 0.5, right? I left that day and I had a conversation with myself and I was just like, you're not going to make progress in this place. So at that point, I changed my life around. I got in touch with a personal trainer. I started seeing my personal trainer, who's my personal trainer to this day. His name is Steve. He had a weight loss journey himself. Shout out to Steve. He lost about 130 pounds. We went to high school together. He's a couple of years younger than me.
Cool.
And that's when my weight loss journey started. Okay. So now I'm working out with Steve. We're in the gym 4 to 5 days a week. The problem is the asthma is still not under control, right? So working out, I would have very intense workouts. But then if I got sick or the workout was too intense, I have an asthma attack again. Asthma attack, back on steroids. Back on steroids meant every little bit of weight that I was trying to lose was pretty much instantaneously put back on. So I was just fighting myself all the time. That's when I was approached by my doctor and he recommended bariatric surgery. Now, at first, I was very against surgery, right? I didn't know any better. I knew nothing about the procedure. I was just like everyone else on the internet. That's an easy way out. I don't want to take an easy way out. If I'm going to do this, I want to do it the old-fashioned way, yada, yada, yada. Mm-hmm. After several conversations with my doctor, meeting the surgical staff, going down to their facility, it was my best bet. If I wanted a fighting chance, I had to have bariatric surgery. So I opted to have a VSG surgery, vertical sleeve gastrotomy. Basically, stomach is football end to end. If you were going to punt it, they cut it into a banana. They remove the excess stomach and you're just left with this banana. And that was really to give me the oomph that I needed. It was to take enough weight off of my body, off of my chest, that I would be able to breathe and be able to get through workouts and stuff like that. And then the rest, as they say, Danny, is history.
So you got the surgery?
I did. I got the surgery. I got the surgery on November 14th.
What was that?
2015.
Surgery went easy? No problem?
Surgery was so
How difficult
easy.
of a surgery is that?
It's an intense surgery in the case of, like, when you look at it from an outside perspective, again, they're removing some of your stomach. As far as the procedure itself, I mean, they have it down to a science, dude. They do so many of them a day. You're in and out really in a half hour. Like from the time you hit the ORs to the time you're in recovery is like 25 minutes, 30 minutes max.
Yeah.
But I will never forget, I was in the waiting room for the day of surgery, right? So it's basically like a bullpen. You're in a bullpen when everyone else is having surgery that day. And I'll never forget, there was like this 7-foot, really heavy set, obviously, dude who looked tough as nails. Okay? Surgery happens. We're all on the same recovery floor. And the best piece of advice I could give to anybody who's thinking about having bariatric surgery is after you have the procedure done, as soon as you wake up, get up and walk around because they fill your stomach up with air, right? And that is the most uncomfortable feeling in the world. And that was my biggest fear, was being uncomfortable. I don't like stomach pains to begin with. Yeah. So like that was a huge fear of mine. So as soon as they were like, all right, you're up, you can start walking, started doing laps around this recovery unit. I remember passing by his room and he was in his bed, hysterical, crying to his wife because he was in so much pain because he refused to get up and walk, you know? But the procedure itself, really simple. They fill you up with air. They go on with some robotics, like PS5 controllers, and they just, you know, they do what they have to do. It's 1, 2, 3. But then that's when the real work begins, you know, because that's when the lifestyle changes come into effect. That's when...
Yeah, so after you do the surgery, I know there's a specific diet you have to follow for a little bit, right?
So yeah, you usually start off with like a liquid diet.
Yeah.
2-week liquid diet.
And then
slowly reintroduce all types of food. You go through like a pureed stage, then you go through like a mushy stage, then you go through like more solid and stuff.
Yeah, I think we'll probably do a full breakdown on like all that, you know, all that entails or involves, all that's involved with weight loss surgery. So we don't, you know, because it could take a long time.
I mean, yeah.
And but yeah, I think that's really cool. You know, that it's been so successful for you. You know, I know for me, like there's 2 experiences I had with weight loss surgery. One was mashed potatoes aren't a diet food on 600-pound life.
I've never watched that show ever.
Really?
Yeah, it gives me PTSD, and I just refuse to watch it.
I watched it a few times, but mainly I've just seen the like hilarious clips on TikTok because that doctor is so savage. But that and then one of my aunts or cousins had basically like an older cousin, so aunt.
Right.
She had it and kept the weight off for a long time, slowly added a little bit back on. But yeah, that's pretty much the experience I've had with weight loss surgery. You know, as far as what knowledge I have. So I think it's gonna be cool to have both kind of our perspectives and information. And like we said at the start, like we're not here to educate, but we're here to just share our story, share what we know. And if you want to follow it, cool. If you don't, do whatever you want.
Absolutely. We're just 2 dudes who are cheating on fat, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah. It's just all about the community, man. Just give people a space to feel like they can, you know, be heard and seen. Like,
absolutely.
I mean, the reason me and you do social media in general is like how many messages a day do you get from people like, hey, I saw this post you did or talked about this and like it resonated so hard.
Oh, it's hard. Yeah.
I connect with it so deeply. Like that's what it's all about.
So. Absolutely. So why don't you tell me about you?
Yeah.
All dark and handsome.
I'm 5'10", but you're a little more tall than me.
6'5", by the way, for anyone keeping score.
5'10" is just above average, you know, which is pretty much the story of my life.
All right. We all can't be perfect.
No, but so we could do a whole episode just on, I think, probably each other's stories. But I'll kind of get the gist of it as far as like, so I grew up, I was actually a skinny kid up till I was like 5.
Okay.
And I just had a crap ton of trauma in my life when I was younger. We talked a little bit about it on the way back to the gym today. But basically, like, my parents were separated, lived apart. I lived with my mom for the majority of my life. When she met my stepdad when I was around 5, he was abusive. And so as he would do that kind of stuff, I would hear them fight and everything. I remember my mom specifically saying this too. It's like, you didn't start to, you know, gain weight and eat bad foods until we met Dave, who was the stepdad at the time. I don't care about name dropping him. He was on like Canada's Most Wanted for like burglary.
Fire.
Shout out Dave.
Shout out Dave. Wait, if it's America's Most Wanted, does that count in Canada?
I said Canada's Most Wanted.
No, you didn't.
Yeah, I did.
Did you? No, my bad.
Roll the tape. I'm pretty sure I did. If I didn't, then my bad. But yeah, screw Dave. So when they would fight, when she said that, like now looking back, I'm like, yeah, it's probably because I was eating out of trauma. Like I would hear that, so I would grab snacks or I would get food and just go in my room and like watch TV and play video games and stuff. And I feel like I did that majority of my childhood. That was just the beginning. But my real dad and my biological dad was also alcoholic. Neither were abusive towards me, but like my dad definitely like tossed me around a little bit. Was a little physical. Was a huge yeller. Like really, like when you got in trouble, you heard it.
Right.
And so all of this kind of happened. Both my parents ended up falling into drug addictions. And I remember my mom leaving for like days at a time. And during those days she would leave, I couldn't sleep like very well, like as a kid that was like left alone. This kept with me for most of my life. Like up until I was like 18, I had to sleep with like the blanket just around like my face so I could breathe, but just so I was like cut off from the rest of the world because I felt safe. But like, yeah, so stuff like that, coping. Like I would literally make myself macaroni and cheese and like hot dogs and like, or sandwiches or whatever was easy that like a 6-year-old can make. I knew how to work the stove around then. Like I would be able to make myself eggs and stuff and macaroni, you gotta boil water. But I would legit make myself food or grab snacks, sit in front of the TV and just watch movies. One of the things is I think the reason I still love movies today, I go to the movies all the time, is because of that. So trauma-induced like good habit, but also trauma-induced bad habit in the sense of anytime anxiety or fear would come into my life, food is like it's almost ingrained in me. Absolutely. It feels like it's just like like walking. Like it's just like, oh, things are bad. Get food because it's gonna make me feel better. So that was the start of it. My mom unfortunately passed away when I was 13. My dad when I was 17. Both were very unexpected and rocked my world. But I've always lived through life with a very like positive outlook. Like the way I got through things was just like, hey, there's other people with it worse than me. Right. I can do this. The thing I knew in my heart was that my parents showed me that drugs were never going to be an option. Like I saw how much it destroyed them. And so like I was like, I will never, ever be addicted to drugs. Like I will never start. I will never try. I'm also just terrified of dying. Right. I don't know. People just like do drugs recreationally that like they don't know where it's from. And I'm like, how do you do that and not feel like this could be it? Like any
life on the edge,
any dose could be it. So I've always just been terrified and also just like, I know it feels like I have an addictive personality. Luckily that's only stuck to food. Right. But yeah, so I've just avoided that stuff. But that's definitely where it started. And so from there, when I was growing up, I just was on and off with my weight. Like I was the chubby kid, and then I was a little bit skinny, then I was chubby kid again. And then in high school, I really started to put on weight. Like I probably went from like, I was 180 pounds at like 13, which is not crazy, but it's big, for probably 5'2", 5'4" at that time. I don't know when I was.
Short kid.
Yeah, I was fine now. Shut up. But growing up, I wasn't the tallest. Right. So it was a lot of weight. I was always, I was picked on a lot for sure. Some people were not picked on when they were fat. I was definitely like made fun of a lot. But I also was like an awkward kid. Like I didn't socialize well. It was something I've had to work on a lot in life. Just like being able to like pick up on cues and and socialize well with others. But built that up over time. But during those years, like I just put on weight. Especially after my parents died. Like when my mom died, like I went from being probably that 200 range to like 250 and then 280. And then my dad died and then 280 turned into 300. And then I was like 312 pounds. I just started a new job when I was 18 at a cell phone store in Canada called TELUS. And basically the Verizon of Canada. Started working there, and a guy that I was working with worked out. And so I was like, hey, I want to work out. I want to be healthy. Pretty sure I have sleep apnea. I didn't have a CPAP machine at that time like I do now. But I just never felt rested ever. Yeah. And so I started going to the gym with him. He taught me about tracking macros. I would basically just be like, hey, can I eat this? And he'd be like, yeah, eat that, but cut out this. Or like, and he just kind of like guided me through stuff. And then once I started to see results, I was like, oh, I want to, like, I'm the type of person where as soon as I figure something out, I want to know like all about it. Right. Like I want to like research, and I obsess over things, and I'm like, yeah, I need to know all about this. So did a ton of research, watched a ton of YouTube, but just learned all that I could. And so I started to kind of train myself with his like moral and accountability support during work. We ended up becoming roommates, and we would just like get up, we'd go to work, we'd make our meals together, we would then go to the gym together, and then like come back home, and then we'd do our own things. But like that was our routine daily. So it was just super easy, right? Because I had someone to support. And you're young, you got time on your hands, you got zero very little worries. So I lost over about a year and a half. I dropped like 100 to 140 pounds at my lowest, but around 100, basically 120 pounds of weight. And not just weight, but I also got like pretty fit, muscular. I had a lot of muscle. I was working out constantly, and maintained that for about 5 years. And then during that time, that whole time, since a kid, I've been on ADHD medication. So I was on Adderall. And if you know, Adderall helps you with your like appetite. Like you focus in, and appetite it's kind of similar to GLP-1 in the sense the food noise kind of like is dimmed a little bit, dimmed down. And so I really feel like that helped me like make it possible to do what I did back then. Because as soon as I came off of it, and the reason I came off Adderall was because it made me irritable, and it didn't make me feel like I was truly me. Okay. It gave me like this like very neutral zen. Like,
right. You weren't up, you weren't down.
Yeah.
Just
me, I'm like a very energetic, like out of the box kind of guy.
Absolutely.
And on that, I wasn't. Like I was very like stern and like I just felt like not me.
Yeah.
So later in life, came off of it. As soon as I came off of it, I started to gain weight a little bit, but I was keeping active, so it was a slow gain. And then COVID, and then right after around COVID hit, I got lean again. I was like 225. And then those last 3 years after that, went through some really hard times in life, and just fell into like eating fast food as coping. Like,
yeah, because the old habits brought themselves back.
And they came back full force. Like it's hard, like I've talked about it before, but it's hard to explain like how difficult it was to say like no. Like I would fill up like a DoorDash cart like 10 different times. Yeah. And be like, no, I don't need it. No, I don't need it. No, I don't need it. And then like the 11th time be like, oh, fuck it.
Yeah.
And just get it.
Mm-hmm.
And then eat all the food, and then be like, what am I doing with my life? Like, and then wake up the next day to try it again. And I really want like a breakfast sandwich, and go get that. Then, the day's already ruined. So just rationalizing and making excuses, and just like not giving myself, the space to improve. But then I really, really tried to do that. Like I really feel like I was like, okay, I know what I need to do. I have all this knowledge from, I was a weight loss coach during that time. I had kept the weight off. Like I had done certifications in 3 different certifications I had done. I had all this knowledge, but I couldn't out coach myself.
Yeah.
Like my brain would just like,
so you can't outwork a bad diet.
Yeah. And so I really struggled for a while, but then even trying like really feeling I was putting like, okay, let's like get all the food out of the house, buy good groceries, eat for a few days, go get fast food, rid it all. And then like, I would travel a lot for work. I was traveling a lot for work. When I traveled, fucking ate everything in sight. Right. Like I'm traveling, I gotta try things. I would find every way to rationalize my choices. And so it got really difficult, and I just kept doing that, and I keep following that cycle. And I was like, I got to like 380 pounds, and I was like, if I keep doing this, man, I'm gonna die. I'm not gonna be here very long. I have a daughter. Like I want to be here for her, and like I want to be able to run around and play with her. So like I need to make a change. And I was like, I'll give myself 3 months of like really trying. And if I don't do it by 3 months, I'll start a GLP-1. Because I was like, if I can't do it when I have all of this motivation in the world, my daughter, like being a better version of me, like everything you could think of that should motivate you to want to change, wasn't enough, and it was so painful. Like
absolutely
to be like, I have all this motivation. Why is it not enough for me to like tap into that and like make a change? Like why? Like for my daughter, like playing with my daughter is like one of the most important things in the world to me. Yet why was that not enough for me to like, I would try to remind myself, I would write down, like nothing was working. So after those 3 months, I was like, put my ego aside. I don't care if people think it's cheating or it's the quick, easy way out. I need to change.
Yeah.
And if it's a temporary decision that I can keep things off later, cool. We'll get down to that road eventually. But looked at all the potential side effects, looked at the possibilities, and went, I'm doing it. And since then, I started that about just over 3 months ago now, close up to 4 months. and I'm down about 35.
That's amazing.
Pounds. And I haven't lost over 5 pounds in 2.5 years, basically. Right. So, like, night and day difference.
Absolutely. I mean, sometimes, listen, obviously, no one's going to know your body better than you, right? And no one's going to know the way that you react to things and your coping mechanisms better than you. There comes a point where, like, you have to have that serious conversation with yourself. And it's not only just asking for help, but sometimes you need the tool, you know, because that's what both of these things are. They're not a cheat code. They're not an easy way out. They're a tool, right? Just like anything else, just like a food scale is a tool for weighing out your food and making meal prep to stay on course. This GLP-1, as well as, you know, bariatric surgery, at the end of the day, they are a tool. You can get around the tool, right? You could not use the tool, and then it's just not going to work.
Yeah, and like, I mean, you know, I'll be upfront and say it definitely gives you an edge, right?
Yeah,
compared to like the average person who's not on anything. But like we both talked about earlier today, is like there's people that message me, go, "Hey, I just started this. I haven't really changed my diet though, but I'm not really seeing results." It's like, well, the answer is right in what you just said.
Yep.
I still have to plan my meals. I still have to do everything I did before when I lost the weight. It's just now that I have this help to put my mindset in the right place. I mean, for me, it's a mindset shift. For you, it was like a stomach feeling shift. It's kind of a similar.
Well, yeah, I mean, but it's also a mindset shift as well. Because, like, again, at the end of the day, you have to want to do it, right? Because I've seen many people go through, you know, what I call the roadmap to success when it comes to bariatric surgery. And I've seen people who get the surgery because they think the surgery is that one thing that is going to change their life, and then they don't put any work behind it, and they're right back where they started. Like, again, you'll have temporary success because you are kind of putting yourself in a permanent caloric deficit for the first few months, but that restriction is going to change. You follow what I'm saying? Like, you will be able, the whole point of the surgery is to teach you the ins and outs of, like, eating right, how much you can eat, all of that. Over time, though, your stomach re-stretches out, and it's up to you to follow suit with everything that you've learned.
Yeah, that's why you'll see, like, a lot of people talk about, oh, what about when you stop the medication or you regain, or people who do the surgery, they regain. No matter what diet, tool, anything that you do in the world to lose weight, if you don't stick with it, if it's not something you can do for the rest of your life in some sort of way, whether it's more activity and eating better for the most part, or if it's less activity and you're eating really good, like, you have to be able to maintain it for life, or you'll see examples where people regain. Like, that's how it happens. Right. Whether you're GLP-1 or just doing a normal diet, like say you're following keto and you're not someone who's like, oh, I can do keto for life. There's some people out there that can. Sweet, amazing. I love that for you. No matter what you do, like if it works, watching this and it works for you and you're maintaining it, like, I don't care what you do as long as it's healthy.
Absolutely.
Right? As long as it gets you in the right place. But if you don't do that, no matter what you do, as soon as you stop it and go back to those old habits, it's just going to come back on.
Hell yeah. I mean,
and I've seen people with weight loss surgery too, put weight back on. It's slower over time.
The famous wise tale when it comes to bariatric surgery is like, you're someone who wants to have surgery, right? So you're telling your friends and your family, hey, I want to have bariatric surgery. There's always someone who turns around and goes, oh, you know, my cousin's, aunt's, uncle's, mailman's dog's neighbor had it done. And not only did they gain back all the weight, but they tripled in size. Well, yeah, because they didn't follow suit. They actually didn't change their lifestyle. They just expected to get a surgery. It was going to fix everything. That's why they gained it all back. If that person really does exist, 99% of the time they don't.
Yeah. And let's be real. It's a lot of the time, I would say majority of the time, it's deeper than just lifestyle.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
It's like we kind of told our stories. Like, I would say 95% of the people I talk to who have struggled with their weight majority of their life have some sort of story to tell.
100%.
You know? So if you're watching this, by the way, if you're watching on YouTube specifically, let us know in the comments, like, what's your story? Like, have you had weight loss surgery? Have you not? Have you had GLP-1? Have you not? What's your story been like? Let us know down below. Let the community know down below. Let's just communicate and create a safe space, a positive space for each other, and support one another. So definitely let us know. But I feel like that's the case as far as everyone has a story, and there's always somewhere in there where you can, oh, there it is.
There it is, right. Yeah. And I think our story defines us to a certain degree, and it makes us who we are, right? Yeah. If it wasn't for, I didn't dive into it really because I have to give you kudos, right? Like, you are very open and honest about your trauma. And off camera, you and I kind of dove a little bit into my trauma, and maybe one day in a future episode, I'll kind of dive a little bit more into that. But when you have this underlying trauma, you have these big catalyst events that happen in your life, like there is so much shit you have to work out mentally. Like if your body and your mind are on two different pages, you're never going to have the results that you want, right? So everyone thinks that weight loss is a physical game, right? And it's really not. It's really a mental game, right? It's accepting everything bad that has happened to you leading up into that point as, okay, it's happened. Now, what can I do going forward that's not going to make what happened then happen again? You know, and I think weight loss, the journey itself, is a lot of soul searching. It's a lot of realizing who you really are, taking the mask off of who you want people to think you are, and having those two entities in your life meet and become one. That was very...
Hell yeah. Deep as fuck.
That was deep as hell, but yeah. I mean, it really is, because my favorite comment that I'll get a lot is like, well, if you would have just ate less and moved more, you would have had results. Yeah, that and like all the other bullshit that lived in my brain at the time, if that didn't exist, maybe I would have had success. But you know what? That wasn't the life that I had.
Yeah. And for me too, like we were just talking about it, like no matter what you do, you'll always have someone saying like, if you would just tried harder. Yeah. Like if you would just done this, like you didn't need the surgery, you didn't need the GLP-1, whatever. Some of us just have like I'm like within self-aware enough and know that like, is there a possibility I could have done it with the right scenario and right everything coming together? Yeah, probably. But realistically, I'm looking at my life. What are the cons of me doing it? Very little. What are the cons of me continuing to be obese? Right. Very high. Absolutely. Right? When you weigh that out, who are we worrying about? Who are we worrying about disappointing? Like if you are true to yourself and you're self-aware enough and you believe you could do it, this is not a podcast that we're here to like tell you to take GLP-1 or get surgery. That's not what this is about. So I don't know why I took this long to get into it. But yeah, if that's what you think this is, well then. That's what you think, no. We absolutely want the majority of people, if they can do it naturally, to do it. Absolutely. Except we also want to talk about, for those that feel like they've been fighting that battle forever, this is a place for you to just listen, maybe feel supported, and maybe that's enough to get you to do it, or that's enough for you to help you dig deeper into those things that are helping you to create change. Or maybe it comes to the decision that you make for yourself. It's your body, it's your medical choice. Absolutely. To do what you need to get yourself in a better place so that you can be there around for the things you want to do in life and the people you want to be there with for the rest of your life. Absolutely. It's just like we forget that like we're all trying to live a positive life on this world.
I think we all forget that we're people at the end of the day, right? So like I'd rather 100 times over get a surgery, or in your case, take a shot and know that I am ultimately going to live and things are going to change, than live with all of the atrocities that come with being morbidly obese. Like that's the thing too that I think a lot of people can't conceptualize. It's like, we didn't need to lose 10, 15 pounds to fit in like shorts for the summer. You know what I mean? Yeah. But I needed to lose excess of 300 pounds. I'm 300 pounds down. That is a lot of weight. I know people that have never reached 300. Right. Yeah. They've never reached 300 pounds in their life. You know,
and they just don't get, you'll talk to them too. They're like, I don't get it.
Right. Of course you don't get it. You're not supposed to get it, but I did what I had to do so you don't have to get it. Right.
Yeah. No, but like even the whole like food thing, like I remember when I was younger, I would be eating, and I don't know if it was my stepdad or like a friend at that time. I just remember people being like, dude, why don't you just stop eating? Like, yeah, like, dude, like clearly you've had enough. Right. Like just stop, dude. And I'm like, I don't know.
Stop breathing. Why don't you just stop breathing?
It's like, unless you've gone through this, unless you can understand and connect, and man, I don't even want to get into some of the stuff I think about with like internalized fat phobia, but because then we're getting like real deep. Yeah. But there's definitely is some people who have struggled their whole life, heard the same message their whole life, that just start to relive that message, and just getting back into the mental thing. Who you believe and who you tell yourself you are is who you're going to be. Like I was not at all into the like identity, mindset, manifestation stuff before I met the current person I work for in my job. He is a huge mindset guy. He has attributed the huge changes, positive changes, money he's made in his life, to him like making a serious, real decision, right? Like people make shitty choices. Like they'll be like, or they'll make like small decisions. They'll be like, oh, I want to do this. I want to lose 5 pounds a month, which is great. It's not saying that you don't want to do that,
Right.
but like, there's a difference between that and I'm going to lose 50 pounds in 6 months, guaranteed. Don't know how I'm going to do it yet, but I'm going to freaking figure it out.
Yeah.
There's a huge difference between those two things. And it's easy to like lose sight of that as you go. But if you continually tell yourself like this and visualize where you want to be, I think there really truly is power in that.
Oh, I believe that.
Like I started just recently on this new journey of mine. Like I have old photos and videos of me like jacked, not jacked, but like for me jacked. Right. In my eyes, I was like, that's a jacked.
You're pretty fit. I'm not gonna lie.
And I literally like I close my eyes and I visualize myself being there again.
Yeah.
Because like I want my brain to know where we're going. You know
Absolutely.
what I mean?
You need to program yourself.
If you don't tell yourself regularly what you want and where you're going, it's gonna keep to what it knows. It's gonna keep to being comfortable.
Absolutely.
It's gonna keep you from growing. And as you grow, this is a real thing that happens. There's gonna be a point where you've lost like 50 pounds, maybe a little bit more, maybe a little bit less. There's gonna be a point where your body and your mind are like, hey, whoa,
Yeah.
whoa.
What are we doing here?
Hey, like we're comfortable here. Where are you going? Like
Right.
this is, and then it starts anxiety. It starts to self-doubt. It starts to self-sabotage. You're going to experience that. And you need to be able to go,
Yep.
fuck you.
Absolutely.
Like,
Body dysmorphia.
I'm going to keep going because that's our body and mind's natural way. And our hormones do it too.
Yep.
Of keeping us where we're comfortable, where we're at. And so you have to be ready for that and be able to push past it. Because once you push past it and you create your new normal, you create your new identity, that's where like deep change can really happen.
So when I had someone very close to me at the beginning of my weight loss journey, kind of tell me back to the whole mindset manifestation thing. Your brain, your mind is a lot like a GPS, right? So if you punch in the coordinates of where you want to go in a GPS, you're ultimately going to get there, right? That's what a GPS is. The same thing goes for your mind. So if you constantly tell yourself like, I'm a piece of shit, I'm never going to lose weight, I'm destined to be this way forever, your mind is going to make that your reality 1,000%. You constantly tell yourself, okay, I'm changing my eating habits. I'm doing the gym thing. I want to look like X, Y, and Z. And you constantly tell your mind, I am going to look like this. I am going to live like this. I am going to breathe air like this. Eventually, it's going to happen. The whole yellow car theory. It's one of my favorite theories. You tell yourself yellow car enough, you're going to go outside and you're going to see like 5 yellow cars.
Yeah. Your brain doesn't know the difference between like real and what your brain creates.
Oh, fact. Yeah.
Like if you think hard enough about what chocolate cake tastes like, you can taste chocolate cake.
Absolutely.
Like our brains are very powerful things.
Okay.
And so
It's a computer.
what we put into it really matters, and where you want to be and what you want and what the kind of life you want, that has to be something that you're striving towards every day. It never stops. And when you like go back into that comfort, because it's going to constantly be trying to get you back. Like that's where like the relapse and the regain happens. Because like we're in this new life, we're feeling good, but the whole time along the journey, our family and friends told us, certain things and, oh, what are you doing? And especially when you start to manifest, like when you start to say like, oh, I'm killing it. And you have someone tell you like, relax, dude, you're not killing it. Like, come on now. You've lost it, what, 10 pounds?
Right.
Like, F those people.
Oh, yeah.
Like,
Cut them out of your life.
you need to constantly allow yourself to, like, it's not being like boastful. It's not being not humble. It's you recreating your own identity.
Absolutely.
Right. It's I'm going to do this. And in a way I've already done this. It's just waiting for me.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Right.
And some people you're going to tell that they're going to be uncomfortable with it. They're going to be like, okay, relax, dude. Like, no, screw you. This is what I'm doing.
Because they don't get it.
Like, you just wait. Like, and not in a you just wait, I'm going to prove you wrong. Because I used to be in that mindset. I think it's a little bit of a young ego-centric mindset. A little bit, some people might disagree with that. That's okay. But eventually, it's not about proving others wrong. It's about proving the version of you that's trying to make you comfortable wrong. Like, no, we're not going back. Like,
when you try to prove it right. Try to prove right that you're not going to do it again.
Either way. You know what I'm saying, jackass? It makes sense. You would put 2 and 2 together. I'm leaving.
He has no idea that he's in for a total ball breaking every episode.
Nah, I love it. No, this is a fun space. Like, we're not going to keep things serious all the time. This is probably going to be one of the more serious episodes.
Yeah, and then after this, it's just LOL.
No, but we're going to try and create like a fun space, something that's not just being done right now.
I think there's so many people out there, right, that they don't see the representation that they need, right, within the fitness community.
Or they just feel like they're constantly being like lectured to.
Correct. And I've never wanted to be that person because I remember trying to find someone who was like me online when I started my weight loss journey and never finding that, right? And I promised myself when I got to where I wanted to be, I would be that person for other people. And by proxy, that started happening.
Yeah.
You know, people were reaching out to me, guys in particular, right? Because there's not a lot of us in the space, especially in the bariatric space and the GLP-1 space. Guys are few and far in between.
I don't know another guy.
Right.
I haven't looked that difficult, but there's a ton of women like showing their stories and journeys.
Absolutely.
I can't think of like another guy that's like publicly.
Yeah. Same in the bariatric field.
I hope
I could
more.
probably
like,
name like
saying
5.
I'm not saying that. Oh yeah, sweet, I'm the only one. Like if you're watching this, and you're one that you're documenting your journey. Shoot me a DM.
Yeah,
I want to follow your story. For sure.
Amen.
Or talk to you, even have you on the podcast one day.
But I think that's so important. Like I want another version of John Arpino, for lack of better words, to have that representation, to know what's possible, to know that like you can get through the shit and get out to the other side. And it's so good on the other side. It's going to take a while. It's not going to happen overnight. You're going to have to work your ass off for it. But once you find that happy medium and you really drop the shoulder and you push through, brother, it is so fucking good over here. You know?
Yeah. Cool, dude. I think that's a good episode 1. Episode 0.
0, 1,
Yeah,
whatever it
This
is.
is 0.
0.
It's the intro. The intro about us, getting into it deep.
Get in there.
So anyway, y'all, I hope you enjoyed this episode 0 of the Cheating on Fat podcast. We'll see you in the next one. Keep it positive. Keep it going. Do what works best for you.
Stay sexy.
Tune out the noise. Stay sexy.
Stay accountable.
Okay, relax. Deuces.
Bye.